Welcome, friends. I'm Reverend Leanne Armstrong, and this is Gimme 5. If you give me 5-ish minutes, I'll try and give you a spiritual deep breath to start your week with. You know, the path of calling can be a winding one, and mine surely has been. Years back, while pursuing opportunities in worship leadership, I spent time really exploring for myself how I'd define worship. The definition I came up with back then was this: worship is bringing the fullness of who I am to the fullness of who I know God to be. Today, I think I'd add, bringing the fullness of who I am to the fullness of who I know God to be in the midst of community, resulting in the flourishing of community. There is some immutable bond between flourishing worship and flourishing human relationship. In this week's lectionary passages, we see the people being dressed down after forgetting how their whole life worship would look if relationships mattered. Isaiah 58 uses the term fast the way we'd use worship, and states the ifs this way: is not this the fast that I choose, to loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the straps of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover them, and not to hide yourself from your own kin? If you remove the yoke from among you, the pointing of the finger, the speaking of evil, if you offer your food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, if. And Luke 13 relates a story of Jesus clashing with those who'd forgotten what worship would look like if relationships flourished, if people mattered. In this passage, the word Sabbath is used like we might use worship. Now, he was teaching in one of the synagogues on the Sabbath, and just then there appeared a woman with a spirit that had crippled her for 18 years. She was bent over and was quite unable to stand up straight. When Jesus saw her, he called her over and said, "Woman, you are set free from your ailment." When he had laid his hands on her, immediately she stood up straight and began praising God. But the leader of the synagogue, indignant because Jesus had cured on the Sabbath, kept saying to the crowd, "There are 6 days on which work ought to be done. Come on those days and be cured, and not on the Sabbath day." But the Lord answered him and said, "You hypocrites, does not each of you on the Sabbath untie his ox or donkey from the manger and lead it away to give it water? Work. And ought not this woman, a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan bound for 18 long years, be set free from this bondage on the Sabbath day?" So Jesus makes pretty clear that the flourishing, the freeing from the bondage of disease that this woman experiences belongs right where it is, as an integral part of the whole life worship of God. And he'll cross boundaries and tradition and, yes, rules to lift up human flourishing. But Isaiah, remember, wasn't finished prophesying. He first gave the people the if they would live like people mattered. And then listen to the then that could follow as part of that flourishing. Then your light shall rise in the darkness, and your gloom shall be like the noonday. Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up quickly. Your vindicator shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry for help, and the Lord will say, Here I am. The Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your needs in parched places and make your bones strong. And you shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water whose waters never fail. Your ancient ruins shall be rebuilt. You shall raise up the foundations of many generations. You shall be called repairers of the breach, the restorer of streets to live in. Friends, that sounds like the kind of community worth growing into. Beloved, as you go and go, you will know this. If we bring all of who we are to all of who we know God to be in community, we will live in ways that lift up human flourishing and reflect the image of God to each other. Amen.